in those circles. the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, call this meeting to order with unfinished business or correspondence, Karen. Thank you for that, Karen. Looking for a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting dated August 23rd, 2022 as presented. Second. Call for a vote, please.
Mr. Bullets.
Yes.
Mr. North.
Yes.
Mr. Pasuch.
Yes. We're looking for a motion to approve invoices in the amount of $1,723,473.50 for the period August 23rd through September 13th, 2022. Second. Vote, please, Karen.
Mr. Bullets.
Yes.
Mr. North.
Yes.
Mr. Pasuch.
Yeah. We are looking for a motion that the actual gross payroll in the amount of $263,687.59 be approved for payment for the period July 17th through July 30th, 2022. Second. Over.
Mr. Bullets.
Yes.
Mr. North.
Yes.
Mr. Pasuch.
Yes. We are looking for a motion to accept the resignation of Elvin Rogers from the Clearfield Jefferson County's Regional Airport Authority. Second. Call for a vote, please.
Mr. Bullets.
Yes.
Mr. North.
Yes.
Mr. Pasuch.
Yes.
Alvin Rogers has served on the airport authority for many years. This resignation is accepted with regret. He's done great work on behalf of both counties. Circumstances beyond our control have necessitated this. We appreciate all of Alvin's efforts.
Thank you. We are looking for a motion to appoint Ed McGinnis of Punxsutawney to the Clearfield Jefferson County's Regional Airport Authority to fill the unexpired term of Elvin Rogers. Mr. McGinnis' term will expire December 21st, 2022.
Thank you so much.
Second. Call for a vote on that, please.
Mr. Bullets.
Yes.
Mr. North.
Yes.
Mr. Pasuch.
Yes. Looking for a motion to extend the original agreement between Jefferson County and Delta Development from September 8th, 2022 until March 8th, 2023.
Second.
Call for vote, please.
Mr. Bullets.
Yes.
Mr. North.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. At this time, how about we just go ahead and leave North Central, give us an update on how things are going.
Okay.
All right.
So I'll start off with our newest program that we have, which is our ARC Community Capacity Program. If you recall, we did a call for projects probably about 4 or 5 months ago, and I know we got a lot of information from you guys in regards to some projects that were out there that needed some help. And basically, this position was brought on to try to help our local officials submit for federal state grants. When we did our initial call for projects, we had 52 applications come in. We've been working on them. They're in various stages, but we've actually submitted 13 of those to funding sources, with an additional 5 that were just recently submitted to ARC for funding. The rest of them are in various stages of needing some information. Hate to say that the primary issue is match, but we're trying to work with different funding sources to see if there's things that we can do to kind of mitigate the amount of match that's required, or if there's other funding pots out there. So we continue to work with them to try to just get those to the point where they can be submitted to a funding source. We're going back out again, basically making a second push right now, and I'll be providing you guys with a flyer that we've created that you can pass out to anybody that you know that might need some assistance. They have active links in the flyers where you can click on them, and it will either take you to our 2-page application or to our website. And once they fill that information out, and it's a pretty simple 2-page form, somebody will be getting in contact with them in regards to trying to cultivate that application into something that we can actually submit. So we've had a little bit of a setback because we did have a staff quit. So we're actually rehiring. We just put that out on Monday. And the only good thing is we actually had 4 people already submit applications for it. So we're hopeful that we can have somebody back on the staff here by the end of September. But we are taking a team approach, so we're not letting this stop us. Our community development department has 4 staff in it that have varying degrees of expertise. And so as these projects come in, if it's a transportation related project, that person that has that expertise will take that and try to help them cultivate it until such time that we get a person on board that can actually do more of the work all themselves. But so far seems to be a very positive program. And we're going to have the opportunity actually tomorrow to showcase that program to the ARC Federal Co-Chair Gail Manchin. We are having our local development district meeting up at the Visitor Center. We're hosting it this year, and it's intended for us to talk to our counterparts about some of the programs that we have that may be unique or different from what they offer. I just so happened that Gail was looking for an opportunity to come up into the region. So we're bringing her up here tomorrow afternoon to listen to some of the results that I just talked to you guys about. And then she'll actually be visiting the PA Wilds at the Kinsey Visitor Center on Thursday. And then we'll conclude her visit. It's kind of a brief visit, but we'll conclude her visit with some funding that they have invested over in Penn Highlands and Detroit. So it's a great opportunity to bring somebody of her position into the region and showcase some of what we have. So we're very excited about that opportunity. Some of the other things that we have going on, we just recently submitted for the state small business credit initiative. We applied for $3 million, and we're hoping for that as it's an opportunity to expand our lending program. Some of what they focus on within this program are small businesses, smaller than what we've traditionally done in the past. So we're hoping to get funded. We're hoping we'll hear no later than the end of October as to whether or not we've been approved, but that's something that we're moving forward, and hopefully I'll have a little bit of more information for you guys in the future. We've also, and I think Jeff's aware of this, we're able to receive the funding for McKean County for our WIC program. It is traditional, or over the 25 years that I've been there, we've provided WIC in 5 of the 6 counties that we provide service in. McKean County has always done it on their own, but with their merger with the Olean Hospital, they decided they don't want to do that anymore. They've reached out to us, and effective as of August 18th, we started to provide services up there. A very positive note, which we just received, was the state provided us the funding for the next 5 years, and in that funding for the next 5 years included McKean County. There was a question as to whether or not they were going to make us go out to bid for that and see if we would be awarded that. But we had made the case to them that it made sense. The North Central footprint is typically the 6 counties, which include McKean County, and we already have representation on the board. They seem to be very receptive to that, so we're very happy about adding them to our program. And then lastly, within our partnership for regional economic performance, we had an opportunity to try to expand our program. We don't know if they're going to fund it, but we did put the application in for a significant increase in funding. But with that, obviously, we're expanding what we would like to do with our program. Hopefully, we'll hear back here in within the next month as to whether or not they're going to be willing to accept that. But it's a great opportunity to try to bring more money into the region. So that's just a real quick update of what we're doing right now.
Do you have any questions now while he's got his voice all down there?
Can I ask you the basic question? Because if I go downstairs and stop people on the sidewalk and tell them your name, but no idea what I'm talking about.
You are right.
So maybe it's the brief thing. Well, it seems like you get everything. What don't you do is maybe the question that you asked is, wow,
Well,
you do everything.
we do dabble in a little bit of everything, but we're primarily a community and economic development agency. So most of these programs are geared towards those types of activities. I would agree with you that if you go down and say my name, there's not a whole lot of people that are going to know it. We're trying to change that. We're trying to get more information out there. But one of the things about our funding sources is that you can't just do general outreach for these types of activities. So we try to attend these types of meetings. We try to attend anything that we can to get our message out. And with the help of the commissioners, actually, the flyer that I talked about, I just sent out to all of the local legislators to try to get that information out, because we realize our network is, we try to make it as broad as possible, but it isn't all encompassing. So we ask for the help of, reporters, of commissioners, of anybody that's willing to put that information out on the street. Because the important thing about the call to projects that I talked about is, and this is nothing new, that I know the commissioners know this, but a lot of our small municipalities don't have the capacity to be able to address a lot of these problems as far as requesting funding. They don't have the expertise, or they just don't have the staff. This pilot project that we're doing right now that ARC funded gives us that opportunity to try to address that, and hopefully in the future be able to address it permanently. They've told us if the numbers pan out, which you can see we've already got some very positive results from it, that they'll consider funding that permanently. So we have an opportunity to prove that, and that's what we're going to do.
So we're not gonna see your face on a billboard somewhere?
No, but you will see me around. I try to get out around as much as possible, and try to make sure that everybody's aware of some of the programs that we have to offer, because you're right, we do transportation. WIC is usually not necessarily associated with organizations like us, but it just happened to fit into what we were doing at the time. So WIC is in there. We're, as commissioners know, we're an internet service provider, because we've dealt with them quite a bit on that issue, and some of what they're trying to resolve right now. We do, again, I talked about community and economic development activities, which would include trying to assist people with export information. We have overseas offices that we can put people in contact with, where they actually provide, and these are all free of charge assistance, technical assistance activities that we provide. If you want to contract with the government, whether it's state, local, or federal government, we have somebody on staff that can actually provide you with that assistance. One of the big challenges right now is getting your it's UEI, unique entity identification number, and it's not easy to get, but we have somebody on staff that can assist you in doing that. So that person can go through and do those types of activities. Another unique program to North Central is our WEDNET program. It basically provides an opportunity for companies to train staff and get reimbursed for it at a set rate. So those are some unique things that we do as a economic development agency. I'd be happy to spend some more time with you if you wanted me to try to explain a little bit more, but I don't know if you have any other questions or.
Something wants to go to work there. What kind of background must they have, or don't they have to have a precise, some kind of a degree, or?
It's difficult to find people with degrees of as an example, right now, the position that we have out there is for grant writing. It is the primary job description that they have. We look for somebody that may have a educational background, but we've gotten more away from the telling them they need some sort of specific degree, only because of the fact that we find that people in this type of a background can be trained into what we need them to do. So we try not to limit what we have. I can tell you our HR person has an education background, a trying to remember, it's like an elementary school type background, but to be honest with you, she does a great job at what she does, and she actually did it for L County prior to us. So, you know, it doesn't, just because your degree is in something doesn't necessarily mean that you can't work in a different field. So we try not to limit that when we put the job descriptions out there.
I wanted to say afterwards, that we're done about how they can apply, or can they apply online or what?
Typically, where we've been finding the most success with posting jobs is through Indeed. We'll do it on
Really?
social. Yes, we did it through papers, and to be honest with you, we weren't getting a whole lot of results from it. So we ended up going to Indeed just to test it, and we've gotten a great response to it.
Careful, Jim, you know you're talking.
I know, but you
We'll
know.
leave that part out.
But that's where we do find and post a lot of our jobs, but we also do social media, and we still do the papers. It's not that we don't do the papers. We just don't see a great response if we just do the papers. And I don't think that has anything to do with the media side of it. I think it's just where people are at and where they look for jobs.
The projects that you got from the first call out,
Mhm.
aside from the ones that you said are having issues finding a match, is it a guarantee that all of those projects will be addressed now that they've,
No.
how does that process work?
What happens is once we get it to the stage, it's ready to be submitted to the funding source, we'll submit it. And the nice thing about this project is in the past, we were always limited to either just the, and I talk a lot in acronyms, so I will apologize. ARC is the Appalachian Regional Commission, and typically most of our applications either went to them or the Economic Development Administration, just because that's where the funding came from, and that's where we had to focus their activities. This new grant that we have gave us a lot more latitude to look beyond just our traditional funding sources. So we go in some going in PennDOT, ARC, EDA, still we have those applications in there, but once they get submitted to those funding sources, then we have to wait. So, and then you wait, they either come back and ask for additional information, or they might deny the application. And at that point, and most of the ones that we've submitted, we have not heard back from, but we'll still work with the applicant to look to see if they get denied any particular funding source, if there's a secondary one that might, be applicable to what their project is. Where we typically go first is what seems to make the best connection with that funding source. And that's, so we have that person kind of helps them evaluate them. They'll help them critique the application and try to get them to the point where they're knowing the funding sources that we're dealing with, what they're looking for, what kind of verbiage they want to see in the application.
So if they would get denied, could you guys also, have you guys considered holding some of those to just reapply them next year? Because I know a lot of them, that's what they tell
And
you.
we can do that as well. A lot of them, the problem is they will, if they don't have their funding necessarily in place, they'll be talking to a match source, and I'll use CDBG as an example, and it's awarded at a certain time. If they don't have an award letter or they don't have something concrete, that could actually push that application out until they can get that in place and something secured. So there is that opportunity as well. And we've done that in the past for our traditional programs, where something we may pull it out because they're not ready. They have a good application, but they're just not ready to move on the application. We'll pull it out and then put it into the next funding cycle. And the one nice thing right now with at least ARC, they've done away with their typical, usually this is the time of the year that we're applying to ARC for funding, and then we have to wait all the way until next year until we apply again. They actually have an open funding window, so we can apply pretty much whenever we have an application that we feel is ready to be submitted, which it is nice, but most of them have a specific window in which you have to apply.
And Jim, isn't it also correct? Sometimes your matching is restricted.
It can be. It depends on what the project is, and some of them will allow in kind, others won't. Some of them
It depends on the program.
yeah. Some of them, like EDA, will allow ARC, even though they're both federal programs. programs. Some of them will allow, federal to federal match. It just depends, each of them is unique.
And some won't.
A lot of them will, yeah. So it just, knowing the programs,
That's in the details of the particular.
and that's where we come into play, because we know a lot of those details, so we can steer you into a direction where, you know, we might be able to use what you already have set up for a match, to help, like, secure other different federal dollars, as an example.
Does the foreign trade zone get used at all anymore?
It does not at this point, no.
Check.
So when a project is approved, do you hire out the people or hire that manage the project that have expertise in that? I say if you need an engineer, then you get an engineer.
No. Most of the time, what we're there for is technical assistance to get the grant applied for and approved. And then if they need any assistance after that, and we actually have administrative grants that pay for that. We don't, once you get beyond that point where you're talking about, like, when you get into actual construction or something like that, that is on the applicant to work with local vendors.
And he didn't even touch about the loan program,
Oh, no.
so.
I mean, we have a lot of different programs. I was just touching kind of on the things that are new for us right now. Because as Jeff pointed out, we have a business finance program and that SSBCI, the state small business credit initiative, is a part of our loan program. One thing that we're looking at, and we haven't gotten to this point yet to introduce it to the board, is because some of our dollars were defederalized, it's giving us the opportunity to look at what we've traditionally done in the past as far as financing is concerned, and potentially change it a little bit to match the needs of the region. Because in the past, a lot of our funding went towards manufacturing because that was big in this area. But things are changing a little bit. You're seeing a lot more tourism rec, you're seeing small entrepreneurs, and they don't typically produce the numbers that you would see needing for these loan programs, because of one of the gauges, or two of the big gauges that they use, are jobs created, jobs retained. Well, when you're talking a small entrepreneur, those numbers aren't going to be there to justify the amounts that they're going to need to borrow. We're hoping that there's going to be flexibility with some of these new funding pots, that we can do away with those traditional gauges and maybe create something different that is more meaningful to the type of people that we see that need to borrow money. So we're always looking to, not just continue down the path we're on, but see if there's ways that we can pivot and redirect what we're doing to accommodate the needs of the region. So we're going to be doing a study here in the fall to look to see if there's any opportunities for us to be able to expand our program as to where we lend without stepping on some of the traditional lenders that are out there, whether it be the private or even some of the county provided services that are out there. So we're not looking to do things that other people already do. We're looking at those gaps or those holes that are out there to see if we can address those problems.
You're located in Ridgeway, is that where you're at?
Yes. Yeah, that's our main office.
Oh, okay, I'll send them that. Okay.
Anything else?
Oh.
I don't. Are you still on the line here?
Yes, I am.
Okay. What's your name?
Paul Boy, with Brookville Trail House.
Okay, Paul. And what can we?
Good morning. Okay, Brookville Trail House is still working with, for permission to complete the trail between Brookville and Broadway. And I submitted a letter of funding from after theme money to Jeff. I was wondering when that'll be awarded, when there will be decided to get that. And if there isn't any money, if there's any alternative like CDBG block grant that Jefferson County could provide.
Yeah, we got that letter. We have not acted on anything. That would be towards the end of the year, part of the budget program, if there is money there for. But you may want to talk to one of the staffs at North Central. They may be able to help you also.
As I say, we can definitely take.
I have talked to them. I know in the old, study, Greenway study that, this trail was, rated as a number one priority in Jefferson County. I've been told it dropped to number 3. Do you have any insight on that?
I do not, but I can definitely look into it for you.
Yeah, because your plan's still being developed, right? Comprehensive plan, North Central.
Well, it's been submitted, I believe.
Okay,
Matter of
well,
fact,
that's what I was told, that we dropped to 3, that does concern me. So, anyway, I appreciate any funding, and, we'll see how Act 13 goes, and, we're hoping to have a feasibility study to apply for DCNR grant next spring, but that's dependent on the funding. So I appreciate whatever you can do, and I thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Paul, just out of curiosity, that the implementation or the Greenways plan that they were doing, did you submit that project as part of that plan? Do you know, was it submitted?
I talked to North Central, I talked to Jefferson County Planner on development, and from what I understand, my little knowledge of this is they submit the priorities. Maybe wrong, but that's my understanding.
Well, I know they submit projects to the Greenways grant, and once they're approved and in the grant, then we just, the project moves forward and the funding's available within that allocation. I don't know if we've gotten approval of the plan as of yet, but I believe it's been submitted. I can double check to see where it stands and if that project is in there, because if it's in there and we get the money, then it's approved.
Okay. Okay, right now, we're just preparing for a feasibility study next spring. We're a new organization. We'll be taking over the 5 Ridges Trail when we have money for insurance to get it from Tri-County Rails and Trails. And so that's a 8-mile stretch of that, roughly 18 miles. Yeah, I appreciate it. And what, I didn't catch your name. What is it?
It's Jim Chorney.
I can give you a call.
Yeah, absolutely. It's Jim Chorney. It's CHORNEY.
I'm sorry, can you tell me that again? Last name?
Chorney, CHORNEY.
And N-E-Y, okay. Okay, I'll give you a call here later this week.
Okay, and I will go back to the office and check with them to see where that project is at.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other questions there, press?
I guess we need to ask about the safety summit. You guys think of that? You were there yesterday, and it's a long time, but
Well, it was lengthy. There was a lot of good stuff learned there. And of course, I guess it's fair to say that it's tough sometimes to keep it hyped and real energetic, the conversation, but there was a lot of good things that was talked about.
Homeland Security coming and talking, or people from that's something you don't see every day either. but one guy from Homeland Security sure had a lot to say. Was pretty fast.
And we got to hear him before.
Yeah.
He's
Had
very
you?
interesting.
They were there a few years ago on the church issue.
Was there any specific topics that were discussed that were of interest to you guys specifically for the county?
So I think probably he threw a lot of things out there, which if we wanted to grab onto and have him in for more questions, we could.
Right,
You
yeah.
know, Tracy had handled a lot of the, active shooter drills and things like that, which he works with that gentleman, you know, he knows him very well. I think with that, I don't know if there was anything else specific. I'm just.
Yeah, all four speakers had stuff that's interest to the county and different organizations. And so, you know, some of that in the morning was directed more towards the schools and security of schools or your workplace. I mean, you can alter different ways. And then, of course, in the afternoon, it's all Homeland Security, both groups. So it was all very interesting.
And I noticed he pointed out the one speaker in the afternoon specifically about the .com versus .gov, and that's a change you guys are actually getting ready to make now.
Yeah.
So that was kind of.
But even the group after him, those guys from Homeland Security, and they talk about chemicals.
Yeah.
And, you know, what a big threat that is to the whole country. So,
So I attended that, was it 3 years ago?
Yeah.
Held and sponsored, as an employer representative. And I used the information from that, seminar to inform and build and update our safety plan, where I used to work. And it was encouraging how many people were there doing the same thing, schools and private businesses, because someone with that real world experience gives you that perspective. And, you know, you can what if an emergency situation to the point where it becomes impractical. So you hit on a few key things and you practice it. And us as an entity, for example, we did that a couple months ago at the courthouse and ran it through. And you can go to seminars and you can put plans together, but if you don't practice it, it's next to useless. So it's nice. Matter of fact, I think very responsible on the part of our responsibilities, our duty to the public to make sure that these kinds of opportunities are there to learn, and then private businesses, schools, other local governments need to turn it into some kind of action.
Seemed like years ago, we'd just be talking the big cities and places like that, but not anymore.
Yeah.
It's everywhere, anytime, any place is like no rhyme or reason to it. As far as like active shooters or whatever you want to call them.
And we're very fortunate that we have such a proactive emergency management staff, director, 911 director, who they're leaning forward into these issues and bringing this kind of talent to our community so that we can take that information, we as residents, people who live here, and you can take it into your workplace and so forth. And one of the things that the speaker yesterday, the very first speaker said about, he takes his experience and background as an individual. He goes to a mall, a shopping center, walking down the street, not to live in fear, but to live in a state of awareness. And, there's applications and value in, the business and social, school, church environment, but also some things that garner from standpoint of an individual. What if this happens? What do I do?
I didn't hang up on anybody. We're just getting feedback. Everything everybody says just becoming.
Yeah. I did have one other question from inside here. What is the Delta development?
Go ahead.
Okay. Delta Development is a company that we've engaged to provide, higher level expertise and guidance on, helping us get, money, grants, resources, from, state and federal entities. This is a trial on our part, and we have been working with them for a few months now. And we're seeing what they can do for us that we can't do on our own. It's not practical for us to have a staff and to try to bring in and pay for the expertise on a long-term basis that we would have to. So this is our effort to utilize their expertise to try to bring those resources internally for us. And we have a couple projects, very specific projects that we're working on with them. And that's going to, quite honestly, tell us whether this is kind of a relationship that is fruitful and we want to continue or not.
That was extended because of those
Yeah,
projects that are
they're-
kind of in the works.
They're midstream.
Okay.
We've made several grant applications, so I know you're going to ask, Alex, so I'm just going to jump ahead.
Okay.
For example, Service Center Road,
Okay.
which is a several $100,000 project. We don't want to hire a staff to try to get the funding we need for Service Center Road when it's going to be a once and done kind of thing. On the other hand, we don't want to saddle the taxpayers of Jefferson County with the full weight and burden of that project. So they're helping us find the resources to fund that. And if that's successful, we'll find that we have saved money. If it isn't, then we'll be wiser.
Has that ever been worked on?
Service Center Road.
Yeah.
Since
Way
it-
back to
since
the
it
old
was
service
made,
center building.
I don't know if it's ever been repaired.
Yeah, it's the top part of the road, the old portion of it.
Mhm.
It's not the bottom part of the newer portion. So it's been Band-Aid for years.
So in essence, it's a $400,000 project, over four, and put it quite bluntly, we're trying to pay for someone else's money. And so that's why they're in the picture.
That makes sense.
And if they can help us get other people's money to do it, and we can give them, a dime on the dollar or even less, then good. Can't. Then, yeah.
There's probably people in this room that don't know what the big service center was, or ever saw it or even seen pictures of it. As beautiful as it was.
Alex wasn't born.
Yep.
You might have not been born yet either. Karen was an infant,
I worked in that building.
being nice.
Oh, wow. It was like the old Jefferson Manor or something, I think, prior to. No, I wasn't alive.
Okay. Anything else then we want to, questions on?
Oh,
I don't have any other.
All right, we're going to look for a motion to.
So moved.
Second. All right, you want to? All right, call for vote, please.
Mr. Gold.
Yes.
Mr. Martin.
Yes. Thank you, everybody.
All the boys with, I couldn't understand it when you
Yes.
said.
The Brookville Trail Hub.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That wasn't gonna.
That's a new organization that they created recently.
I think his last name, I think it's Boboigede.
Yeah,
I think is how it's
I
spelled.
believe you're right.